All right, so you want to become a better writer, huh? Well, you've come to the right place. We've got a whole stack of lectures about writing and reading.
And trust me, they're packed with amazing insights. We're talking about uncovering the secrets of powerful writing,
Hmm.
whether you're working on emails, presentations.
Or even that novel you've been dreaming of.
These lectures are seriously cool because they go way beyond just grammar rules. They really dig deep into how words actually work and,
It's not just about becoming a better writer.
right, it's about becoming a more insightful reader and a more, powerful communicator in every aspect of your life.
And you won't believe some of the examples they use. Like, we're talking about analyzing Shakespeare to become a better public speaker and dissecting poems about plums.
Stolen plums.
Yes, stolen plums to make your emails better. It's wild.
It all starts with understanding what makes good writing, well, good. The lectures start off with this great story about a college application essay. It was technically perfect, grammar, structure,
Wow.
everything, but it was totally boring. The speaker actually taped a second essay, a more interesting one, to the back of the first one just to make sure someone read it.
No way. Did it work?
It did, which proves that good writing isn't just about following the rules. You got to grab the reader's attention and make them want to keep reading.
So true. It's like, what's the point of perfect grammar if no one wants to read what you've written?
Exactly. And the lectures talk about how important reading is to becoming a better writer. It's not enough to just skim through things. You have to become an active reader,
Right.
really paying attention to the language, what stands out, what feels awkward.
Yeah, like the tone, the voice.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's about noticing the craft behind the words.
Precisely. They even have this concept of pre-critical responses. It helps you understand those first reactions you have to a piece of writing. Like, think about the famous opening line of Moby Dick. Call me Ishmael.
Hmm.
What's your gut feeling about that?
I mean, it definitely makes me curious.
Right.
Like, who is this Ishmael guy, and why does he want me to call him that?
Exactly. And those initial reactions, those pre-critical responses, they're a great starting point for deeper analysis. The lectures say that a text actually has three lives, like the first read, then your reflections, and then you reread it with those insights.
So it's like peeling back the layers, discovering new things with each read.
That's a great way to put it. And they encourage you to think about your own writing the same way. Like, how could your work be read on those different levels?
That's a really cool way to think about it.
Yeah.
So the lectures also say that just understanding different genres, poetry, drama, essays, can actually make you a better writer, even if you don't plan to write in those genres.
It's about recognizing the conventions of each genre and then using that knowledge to kind of play with your reader's expectations. Imagine reading a mystery novel and then, bam, in the middle of a chase scene, there's a sonnet.
A sonnet
Yeah.
in a mystery
I
novel.
know, right?
That sounds crazy, but I could see how it would make things way more interesting.
Totally. And the lectures actually go deeper into how you can do this in your own writing, using techniques from different genres to make your work stand out.
Okay, so this brings up a question I've always had. What about finding your own unique voice as a writer?
That's a huge part of it. The lectures spend a lot of time on this. They say your voice should reflect who you are as a person and, like, your goals as a writer. For example, they compare a sentence by Hemingway to one by Henry James.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
They're both considered masters, but their styles are completely different.
Right, right. Like, you don't want to sound like you're trying to be someone you're not. But what about knowing your audience? It seems like that would be important too.
Absolutely. Good writing isn't just about you expressing yourself. It's about respecting and understanding your audience, the people you're writing for. They use the example of Edgar Allan Poe's The Black Cat. Remember that one?
Yeah, I think so.
Poe creates a very specific voice for the narrator, and he even kind of creates an audience within the story itself.
Oh, yeah, the one where the narrator's like, I'm not crazy, even though he's doing all this crazy stuff. Exactly.
Remember that.
And by analyzing Poe's work, the lectures show how writers can create, like, multiple layers of audience. It's fascinating. Even centuries later, we're still trying to figure out how Poe's original audience would have understood his stories.
So it's about always considering who you're writing for and how they'll interpret your words.
Right.
Makes sense. Now, what about making a strong argument? That's something I struggle with.
Oh, the lectures have some great advice on that. They start with this hilarious example, a student essay about Sir Lancelot getting shot in the butt. Apparently, the essay was terrible and completely missed the point.
Poor Sir Lancelot.
I know, right?
I guess even medieval knights deserve a good writer.
Tone and audience are so important, even in academic writing. They use Jonathan Swift's A modest proposal? To show how satire can make a powerful argument. You know that one, right?
Yeah, I think so.
It's where Swift suggests eating babies to solve poverty in Ireland.
Oh, right.
Wow, that's definitely one way to get people's attention.
It's shocking, right? But using such an outrageous idea actually forces people to think about the problem in a whole new way.
Yeah, I can see that.
Swift uses this really careful organization and specific words to guide the reader, even though the idea itself is totally absurd. And that brings us to another important point, supporting your arguments with evidence.
Yeah, you can't just throw out a bunch of random facts and expect the reader to understand how they relate to your argument.
Right. It's like, imagine a lawyer showing a bloody knife in court, but not explaining anything else. That's what the lectures say it's like.
That's a great analogy.
You have to explain your evidence and connect it to what you're saying. They use Thomas Paine's Common Sense as a great example.
Oh, I remember reading that in high school. Paine makes a really strong case for independence and uses lots of historical examples to back up his points.
Exactly. And he even uses really strong language to influence how you see the evidence. For example, he uses statistics about, like, English monarchs and civil wars to show how unstable monarchies are.
Right.
It's not just about the facts themselves, it's about how you present them.
That's really helpful. It seems like those techniques could be used in any type of writing, not just essays.
Oh, absolutely. They're fundamental. And here's another strategy from the lectures that can make your writing stronger. Concessions. They say that acknowledging counterarguments can actually help your argument.
Really? I always thought that would make my argument weaker.
I know, it seems counterintuitive, but when you address those opposing views directly, you're building trust with your reader.
Okay.
They see you as more informed and reasonable.
Mm-hmm.
You're showing you've thought about things from different angles, like Paine and Common Sense. He acknowledges some people like monarchies, but then he takes those arguments apart.
That makes sense. It's like you're saying, hey, I've considered all sides and I still think this. Okay, so we've talked about introductions, organization, evidence, and concessions. What about conclusions?
Conclusions are key. The lectures really emphasize that a strong conclusion makes your whole argument stick with the reader. Don't rush it just because you're tired of writing.
Right.
Take your time and make it powerful.
So how do we end with a bang? What are some strategies?
The lectures talk about 3 main approaches: negative consequences, no viable alternatives, and positive consequences.
Let's break those down. What's negative consequences?
That's where you highlight what could happen if people don't accept your argument. Paine does this in Common Sense. He doesn't get graphic or anything.
Right.
But he hints at the bad stuff that could happen if America stays under British rule.
So it's like saying, if you don't listen to me, bad things will happen.
Kind of, but it also makes the reader curious.
Ooh, I like that. What about no viable alternatives?
This one focuses on showing that your solution is the only logical one. Swift does this brilliantly in a modest proposal. After he lays out this crazy idea, he says, hey, no one else has come up with any realistic solutions to poverty.
So it's like, you might not like my idea, but what else are you going to do?
Exactly. It forces the reader to really grapple with the problem.
Okay, and what's the last one? Positive consequences.
That's where you focus on the good things that'll happen if people embrace your argument. Thoreau does this in Civil Disobedience.
Okay.
He suggests that if the government was less intrusive, society would be more just and fulfilling.
So it's like, if you do what I say, amazing things will happen.
Right. And all 3 strategies, they make the reader want to do something or at least keep thinking.
Yeah, I like that. It's like you're leaving them with a challenge.
Exactly. And another thing about conclusions, use them to address potential criticisms before anyone can bring them up.
Oh, that's smart.
Swift does this in a modest proposal.
Oh.
He knows people might accuse him of just wanting to eat babies himself, so he ends by saying he can't because his kids are too old and his wife can't have any more.
That's hilarious. But it also shuts down that criticism completely.
Exactly. By being proactive, he strengthens his argument. So it's not just about summarizing, it's about being strategic and leaving a strong final impression. Now, let's talk about poetry.
Ooh, poetry.
One of the lectures says that poetry isn't just for poets.
Really?
They say it's about using language in new and surprising ways to paint pictures in the reader's mind.
Okay, I could see how that would be useful for any writing. But what can we actually learn from studying poetry?
The lectures talk about the power of word choice, arrangement, and breaking the rules. Like, they analyze a poem about a stolen plum.
A stolen plum. Doesn't sound very exciting.
I know, right? But that's the point. The poem is called This Is Just to Say by William Carlos Williams.
Okay.
And it shows how even a simple subject can become captivating when you use language in a unique way.
So I guess even a stolen plum can be interesting if you know how to write about it.
Exactly. And that brings us to two key concepts,
Mm.
diction and syntax.
Oh, I remember those from school.
Diction is about choosing the right words, and syntax is about how you arrange those words.
Right.
The lectures say that diction is more than just definitions.
Okay.
It's also about the connotations of words, the emotions they evoke, like the difference between scheme and plan.
Oh, yeah. Scheme definitely sounds sneakier.
Right. They both mean the same thing, basically. But choosing one over the other can change how the reader feels about what you're saying.
So it's not just what you say, it's how you say it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They also talk about syntax, using this really interesting poem by E.E. Cummings called Anyone Lived in a Pretty How Town.
I remember that poem. It's so weird with all the strange punctuation.
I know, but that's what makes it cool. Cummings messes with the usual word order to make you really think about the meaning. And while you probably wouldn't write an entire essay like that,
Right.
varying your sentence structure can make your writing more engaging.
So it's like borrowing from poetry to make your prose more interesting.
Exactly. And now let's talk about drama.
Drama. I thought we were talking about writing, not acting.
I know, right? But the lectures say that understanding drama can make you a better writer overall, even if you never write a play.
Okay. How?
Well, in a play, everything has to come through dialogue and action.
Oh.
No long descriptions or explanations.
So you have to show, not tell.
Exactly. And that's a really valuable skill for any writer. They use Shakespeare's St. Crispin's Day speech from Henry V as an example, the Band of Brothers speech.
Oh, yeah.
That one. The lectures say that the words are powerful on their own, but they really come alive when they're delivered well.
So it's not just about the words on the page, it's about how they're spoken.
Exactly. And that leads to another important point. Reading your work aloud.
Oh, I've heard that before, but I never really understood why.
They say reading aloud can help you catch awkward phrases or sentences that are hard to say. It's like you're testing your writing for clarity.
I see.
Even if you're not writing a speech, reading aloud can help you make your writing smoother and more engaging.
Okay, that makes sense. So we've covered a lot today. Poetry, drama, Shakespeare. It's amazing how all these different things can teach us about writing. There's so much more in these lectures. And one thing they keep saying is that inspiration can come from anywhere, like the most unexpected places.
Absolutely. They tell us to look at everyday writing, billboards, ads, even those instruction manuals we all hate.
Really. Instruction manuals as inspiration.
Think about it. They're all using language to try and persuade us, even if it's just to buy a new toothbrush or something.
I never thought of it that way. But yeah, I guess they are.
By paying attention to how they use language, we can learn a lot about writing effective messages, even if it's just for a toothpaste ad.
It's like a secret writing lesson hiding in plain sight. Okay, let's go back to poetry for a sec. We talked about word choice and sentence structure, but what about all those other poetic things like metaphors and similes? Are those just for poems?
The lectures say bring those tools into your everyday writing. Metaphors and similes, they're not just for poems. They can make any writing more lively.
Okay, give me an example. How could I use a metaphor in, like, an email about a project deadline?
Instead of just saying, we need to finish this project on time, you could say something like, we're in the final stretch and we need to cross the finish line together.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah.
It's way more exciting than just stating the deadline.
Right. It makes it feel more like a team effort.
Totally.
Metaphors and similes can make abstract ideas more concrete and relatable. They can even add a little humor or surprise.
Okay.
Just remember to use them thoughtfully. Don't overdo it.
Right, don't want to go overboard with the metaphors.
Exactly. Now, what about drama? We talked about showing, not telling, but are there other things we can learn from dramatic writing?
Good question.
The lectures talk about pacing and timing.
Pacing and timing. Isn't that more for movies and TV?
It's important for any kind of story, whether it's on stage, on screen, or on the page. In drama, every line, every action, it all contributes to the rhythm of the story.
Okay, I can see how that keeps things interesting.
Yeah.
But how does that apply to, like, regular writing?
The lectures say to think about creating momentum and suspense. Use things like varying your sentence length, adding pauses, and placing important information strategically to keep the reader hooked.
So it's like we're directing the reader's experience, guiding them through the story.
That's a great way to put it. And just like a director, you have to make sure the pacing fits the genre and the audience.
This is giving me so much to think about. Okay, what about introductions? How do we write a good one?
Introductions are so important. They're your first chance to grab the reader's attention. The lectures say to be specific and get to the point. Don't be vague or make sweeping statements. Use vivid language, ask questions, or tell a surprising story to hook the reader right away.
So it's like setting the stage and making the reader excited to see what happens next.
Exactly. You want to create that sense of anticipation. Now, what about conclusions? It's easy to just rush through them, but the lectures say a good conclusion can really leave an impact.
It's like the grand finale. You want to end with a bang.
Right. They suggest things like revisiting key themes, offering a call to action, or asking a thought-provoking question that stays with the reader.
So it's more than just summarizing. It's about adding that extra layer of meaning.
Exactly. They also say the conclusion should feel like a natural ending, not just something you tacked on at the end.
It's all about giving the reader a sense of closure. Wow, this is making me realize how much goes into writing, from the first sentence to the last.
It's like a puzzle. Every piece has to fit just right.
Exactly. And like any puzzle, it takes practice to get good at it.
The more you try new things and experiment, the more you'll find your own voice and style.
That's what it's all about, right? Finding your own way to express yourself and connect with your readers.
Exactly. And one last thing from the lectures. Don't be afraid to break the rules sometimes.
Break the rules.
Mm-hmm.
But we just spent all this time learning the rules.
I know, but sometimes the best writing comes from bending or breaking the rules. It's about finding that balance between following the conventions and making your own path.
That's a good point. It's like once you know the rules really well, you can start to play with them.
Exactly. Think of writers like E.E. Cummings or James Joyce. They broke all sorts of rules, and it made their writing unique and memorable.
That's true. They definitely weren't afraid to be different. So to wrap things up, what's the biggest takeaway from all these lectures? What do we really need to remember?
I think the most important thing is to be a curious and engaged reader. Pay attention to the craft of writing. Notice what works and what doesn't.
Yeah, and how it makes you feel.
Exactly. And then apply those insights to your own writing.
It's like a constant learning process, right?
It is. And remember, the best way to become a better writer is to write. So get out there, practice, experiment, and have fun.
That's what it's all about. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of writing.
It's been a pleasure. Happy writing, everyone.